This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about culture, science, and tech. This week, Joey asks us about assembly theory, and I ask everyone about the elemental marshmallows.
Woo!
Jess, and Joey, and Joey, oh, and Joey, and Joey. It's Aaron, this is what, and Aaron sounds like, cause this is really dated. It's a reference. That show is not on the air anymore. This is...
You're not even recording!
Damn it!
Shit. Joey!
So proud of that one.
That was so
I thought you were just ginning one up, and then I thought you were waiting for me to go first.
Arrow was just gonna do the intro
that can
song.
still count. This is what a Joey sounds like. I'm recording now.
Joey.
That's so fair. I can. It's okay.
And this is what an executive producer and Brienne of Tarth, Jess Vander sounds like.
Hi, this is Jess. I haven't watched Game of Thrones, so I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's fine. It's kind of like me and The Wire. Like,
okay.
I think the boat has sailed, right?
Got it.
Like,
yeah,
it's great. It's done. The Wire was actually great. Game of Thrones went. What happened? It was so good, and then that last season just went.
Takes.
It was a high ceiling, low floor show.
Yes, and like, complicated.
The consistency of the show was what was lacking. And sometimes you can measure greatness in the highest highs, and sometimes you can measure greatness in a sustained level of greatness. In which case, The Wire did both, right? Or at least theoretically. Yeah. I have not watched The Wire. I've watched an episode in the sociology of deviance in college.
So I watched the first episode as an aside. I watched the first episode last week, and I was like, yeah, I know exactly why I would like love this and why it was so great. And even now, just that first episode felt like, yeah, this is what TV is like now and was absolutely not like then. But I got to the end of that first episode and I was like, I don't think I can be on this ride for that many seasons. This is going to be dark. This is going to be intense. This is going to be what started that revolution in television, and I appreciate it. I acknowledge it. I'm not in a place to take on board like entertainment trauma. I don't think I can do that for a while.
Yeah, I accept that you are a seminal show in the creation of shows, and also, Aaron, this is why we are friends, is that both you and I cannot handle like dark TV or movies because
you can count me in.
And Jess, because we're just a bunch of like empathic people that just take on all of the trauma of the shows.
It's like makes me really sad.
Which is why, for you, my friends, I suggest doing the thing I did right after that, which was watching the first episode of I Love Lucy. And like, let me tell you, it's funny. Shit is funny. It works. The beats are funny. The story is funny. The timing is funny. It's just all funny.
Good. This is
just all good.
Shockingly, one of Ryan's favorite childhood television memories is like he didn't watch much television, but for some reason, all of I Love Lucy.
That's amazing.
That is a choice.
That's amazing.
It's very specific.
That's like Esther Moon learning English from Martin and in Living Color. Yes. It just sort of like results in like a very interesting person.
Yeah.
Is that going to be? Maybe that's what we talk about today.
Yeah,
the shows that made us who we are. But no, is this what? Do we have any housekeeping first before we house?
I think our housekeeping is that, as always, we're recording this a week later than, or a week earlier than publishing time, and I think all of us are desperately ready for some distracting nonsense today. Is that right, folks?
Yo, yes.
Show
100%. Yes.
Cool. Joey?
Commence the distraction.
Oh, I'm starting. So we're going to go nerd corner, then food corner.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I'm super prepared.
Grapes.
So before the show, I was like, I have super nerd corner that I don't know whether I can talk about, but I've been thinking a ton about, or sports ball corner. And Aaron and Josh were like, great, nerd corner. That sounds
I mean,
like
both
that's the one.
either or is very they're similar in result, which is
in
you run
nerdy
the show.
interpretations of both. So a friend of ours, one of our clients, sent me a video about it's a person named Lex Friedman, who I believe is like an engineer, mathematician at MIT, has like podcast, YouTube show. It's like an interview show. Was not familiar. I feel like I'd come across the name before. But he was like, oh, you'll love this. He saw that I have the Drake equation tattooed on my arm, and he's like, you'll love this. It's like right up your alley. I'm like, okay, like, sure, let's, I'll see what you're into. And it was a podcast with two scientists. One is Dr. Leroy Cronin. I don't know. He's at the University of Glasgow. And Dr. Sarah Mari Walker, who is a physicist. So Leroy Cronin is a chemist. Sarah Walker is like a physicist and I believe astrobiologist, which is, basically essentially only concept, like what would it take to create life in outer space and other locations, other planets, whatever. And they've been developing this theory called assembly theory that I find like super fascinating and super confusing. And I've just been thinking about it all the time for about a month. And I'm going to try to introduce it to you, but I'm kind of curious, are there ways that we could use this? I'll prime it with that and I'll reset up the question. So assembly theory, to my extreme lay understanding, is basically a means of trying to understand complexity. And it's the idea of, it's both trying to understand what is the complexity level of any concept, any, molecule formation, but it moves into sort of ideas and thoughts and interactions as well. And is basically saying in order to recreate anything, what is the shortest path to create something? And it gives it a specific number, and that's sort of its level of complexity. What I found extremely fascinating as they're they're just basically sitting in a cave, thinking about this thing forever. And the chemist is trying to create actual experiments to demonstrate that the theory exists. And the physicist is helping to improve the chemist's ability to think theoretically. But the part that is really fascinating to me is within this theory, it's sort of, they're still trying to tie it to all of the rules of physics that we understand, all of the rules of chemistry, whatever. It's sort of an attempt, I don't know whether they would say this, at a unifying theory. But the idea is that abstract concepts actually exist. I think when we often talk about abstract concepts, it's sort of in idea space or in your head, or they exist somewhere extraplanar that we can have a conversation about the idea of winning as a concept, or the idea of family, or the idea of friends, or any concept that you want to introduce. It exists somewhere outside of physical space. It's in my mind and it's in your mind and we can interact. But what they're sort of proposing is that those ideas actually have the ability to tangibly change mass and matter in real life, and in turn actually have tangible space over time. that like the idea of family, by existing in all of our heads and the ways in which it both manipulates the way that we would construct a home, the way that we would interact with each other, the actual like folds in our cortex that are like used to maintain the construct of family. Like over time, it has grown, it plays a certain role, it can interact. And so if you sort of like, I've thought about it like slicing a corn dog or something. Like if you're doing like slices of a corn
Which
dog.
direction?
Like
Are you slicing crossway? So you have a section of the dog?
It would probably work either way, but long ways. Or you're slicing across.
Spiral?
In
never-ending spiral.
Parallel to the stick? Oh, up a spiral.
Perpendicular to the stick.
Corn dog stairwell?
Yeah.
If you're slicing a corn dog perpendicular to the stick. Like,
got it.
Like coin-sized slices.
Coins
whatever.
of corn dog coins.
Yeah.
Susan B. Anthony of corn dogs, I see.
At the beginning of the corn dog, there is no dog, right? It's just bread. And slowly the
Eisenhower. Okay.
Yeah. Slowly the dog is introduced and is taking up space. And by the end, you're back to just cornbread.
We go Washington, and then we got full-blown Anthony. I follow.
Yeah.
Roger.
But so like in that same way, over time, as we develop new concepts and constructs, like the idea of like gremlin mode as an example, right? It's a relatively new concept in like mimetic language that we have online. People know what it means. It's like that coming into space is the beginning of the dog showing up, and however long or big that like exists, when at some point if it ends is like you're back to the end of the dog, but it's actually taking it up, and the lengthwise is time. Are you tracking with me? Like lengthwise of the corn dog is time.
Yeah, I got you.
Each new slice is a moment in time. Right. And the introduction of gremlin mode is like now that is emerging. It is actually existing in physical space over time because it's in someone's head. It gets the dog gets bigger the more people who know about it, the larger priority the concept has. And so the idea that like ideas exist not just in our heads but actually in tangible space. I wanted to ask y'all, is there anything that we can do with that? How could we take advantage in our lives of assembly theory?
Sir Kensington's ketchup, a little bit of mustard, pop it on a bun, everybody knows everything.
First of all, how dare you, Sir Kensington?
Put a corn dog in a bun? Oh, I'm sorry. How dare you put a corn dog in a bun?
Am I going to also, I mean, okay. Ketchup on a corn dog, terrible.
Wrong.
Agree.
Yeah.
Sir Kensington's ketchup, fantastic ketchup. I think it is the best ketchup.
It's not the best ketchup.
Joseph disagrees vehemently.
Yeah, it's definitely not. No. It's not better. It is.
You know
filthy.
what?
It is an affront to the standard ketchup.
The songs in the 60s might have
it is
said,
just
why
a
can't we
tomato
be
spread.
friends? I'm literally putting in my monocle. I'm going to my rotary phone and I'm calling Sir Kensington myself. And I'm saying, you, sir, have been affronted.
You know what? Why this doesn't work is because ketchup is a concept that exists for real and Sir Kensington's is not part of it. And it is big enough in assembly space for Sir Kensington's to not be able to be incorporated. But how dare you?
You've just made the Westworld version.
Scientists being like, they're using my beautiful theory to talk about ketchup.
They threw their phones out the window a long time ago. That's
right.
okay.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I think I thought I knew where this was going, and then I am not certain anymore. So can you help me better understand what I first thought you were describing in this idea of assembly theory took me to we've talked before on the show about the concept of chi and how it's like the life force, energy force that can be transferred between people, and not in like a extraplanar theoretical sense, in like a, it's there, we just cannot, we don't have enough scientific understanding to be able to describe how it is happening, but it is like it has a presence. And I think like my first interpretation was, so you basically like, is assembly theory a space where you work backwards from theoretical concepts to try to scientifically understand physical concepts that we don't yet know, but we have a hypothesis by way of whatever theory.
I think the two scientists are approaching I think the physicist is I think Sarah Walker's starting top down, and I think the chemist is starting bottom up.
Interesting. Right, because the second version that I understood, which brought us to this corn dog coin experiment, was more about like the ebb and flow of an idea. Like, this is where I get a little bit lost, and I need your help. What is the bottom up interpretation from the chemist?
So the bottom up interpretation is like, I think some of it started on like, where they began the theory was like, how do you define what life is, both in sort of like giving life a signature, but then also like, how do you recreate life? What are the conditions in which life could form, and how does it form, and things like that? And so,
meaning like, why do we have everybody has like an understanding of life being a thing or of family being a thing? Why do we know what that is?
Like literal, like cellular life, right? Like, so you go from like a sea of like particles into then them starting to sort of form together to create like amino acids and proteins, and those proteins continue to sort of like enhance in the volume of complexity to create them. And then like, it sort of keeps stacking up to like where you get to intelligent life. But the idea, I think, also from the top down part is like, intelligent life, us create, like we recreate ourselves. We have these interactions. It is sort of like a series, like a long history of complexity forming over time. But then we also create now at this point ideas, concepts, technology, whatever it is, that also are sort of like an expanded layer of complexity on top of our own life. And so how do you start to think about those things? And so like the top-down view might say like, okay, Kim Kardashian is one person, is a human being, right? Like you can sort of measure her as like an individual human in space. But the idea of Kim Kardashian extends far beyond the idea of Joey or Aaron or Jess, right? Like it exists in more places. She's known to more people. It exists in their head. Like it has more influence in actually affecting matter over time. And you can actually go back in time and look at the moment where that started to expand out. And the question of like the in the same way you mentioned like Jefferson and Washington and Eisenhower a moment ago, Aaron, right? Like the memory of them still exists after their physical entity is gone. And so like the concept of them exists through time longer than the physical existence of their body, right?
I was just reading, I've had Chuck Klosterman's But What If We're Wrong sitting on my shelf for a really long time, because it's like that kind of book that everybody at Sylvain probably has read already, and I definitely have not. And in like the first chapter, he's talking about how certain figures and their works become canon, and the idea that like Kafka in his time was like fine enough, but it wasn't until his like posthumous period where people were like, wait, genius. And because he died sort of like a little bit of a sad boy, it makes it even truer and more authentic. And he told his friend to like not publish his stuff, and the friend did anyway. And don't we have so many feelings about Kafka because of it? And it just made me like, I'm imagining the Kafka corn dog, just like during his lifetime, we're still in the corn muffin period, that sort of doughy fried space, until bam, somehow the longevity of his work and like, and in comparison to like a very scant few who have made it over a longer period of time, like Homer, and whether even many are like, who is Homer? Is Homer one individual? We don't know, but Homer as a concept has persisted in a way that very few have managed over time, which is just very interesting.
And it seemingly opens the door, like it seemingly touches on another, like the thing in assembly theory about like what are the smaller constituent parts that add up to something bigger. So like, what are the ideas of Homer that then make up Homer? And then if you go into those, what are the slices within those slices? At what point do you get to something that, you know, essentially mirrors the biological chemical signature that so much of this is looking for life? Like, what are the chemical signatures of the things that then have to be added together to get to Homer? Of all the different pieces and sub pieces that come together to make up the idea of a Homer.
Whoa.
Yeah, the idea of like, what is the assembly number for the Iliad is like, not, you know, that idea that Carl Sagan had said, like, in order to create an apple pie from scratch, you must first create the universe. Like that same idea, right? Like, in order to get the assembly theory of the Iliad, you need to also have Homer in that path, and what is his assembly number, and like the sort of memory of like all of, you know, life on Earth to get to Homer, right? Like that idea, there's a whole concept within it around memory, and that objects hold memory, and we can think about this in like intangible or what we would consider like non-living things, right? Like the strata of the Earth holds some memory of the time in which that like igneous rock was created, or limestone was created. Like it was created with some memory of that moment, and that's why we can take like core samples and be like, there was a volcanic explosion 65 million years ago.
Core samples are so cool.
They're
Also
cool.
fossils, but like core samples being like literally a giant cylinder of the Earth. If you don't know about this, it's fascinating. It's like a giant cylinder of the Earth. You just pluck it out and it looks like a giant Earth ice cube, and it's like, yep, we know what happened because we can just look at all the layers of
It's so cool.
of this like giant cylinder sample.
Well, and that's where
Is it giant? I don't know.
I think it's pretty big. I think the ones I've seen are like on Nat Geo are pretty big,
right?
Like,
I feel like they have to be
pretty big. Yeah, I mean, they may have like
get
broken
like far
but
enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
right, broken. Okay,
But
sorry.
what excites me and confuses me about this a little bit is the role of like the role of the observable. Like basically this theory, which is a scientific theory and therefore it makes sense, must be observable by multiple people. Yet, if you think about the core samples that are in the Earth and either how deep we have not been able to go, or you think about an idea that a memory that someone forgot and therefore doesn't get the chance to contribute to the larger corn dog of knowledge, then not only does it suggest, it actually suggests that thing might not have ever existed, maybe? Or am I wrong? Is it that it had to exist in order to actually get into their mind to begin with, and it's just that's like the corn dog winnowing away at that point?
Yeah, that's where the memory is gone, right? And the memory of things is sort of like a place where it could exist in assembly space, right?
Like
and so
half-life of a memory?
Yeah, there is like, right, what are
Wow.
what are concepts that we've created, right? Gravity is like a foundational force that we're continuing to understand, but we had to be complex enough to create a concept for gravity to exist in assembly space as our way of understanding it. And now they like start to talk about within this idea where, Sarah Walker is like an astrobiologist, and they're trying to think about like, does life exist somewhere, and how would we interact? Would we be able to recognize it, et cetera, et cetera? And the idea of like, we have to have been complex enough, like take the concept they talk about, like the concept of zero. Like we didn't have zero for a really long time that we existed as humans. Same as like even shorter for goblin mode. But like zero was a concept that helps us understand a lot of like mathematical things. And so if you interact with another alien species or whatever, if they don't have the concept for zero, their assembly space is different than our assembly space. And so you have to like look at where is there overlap in your assembly spaces. In the same way that you or I can interact, and you have to be able to say like, where are there shared space within our assembly space where there's concepts that we share, understanding that we share. So even if you look at like English language speakers, assembly space is distinct from Chinese language speakers or Spanish language speakers or whatever. Like the assembly space of concepts. We often talk about like different languages have different words for concepts that English doesn't have or another language doesn't have. And that's like a demonstration of like the collective assembly space for those groups. And so if you go into like now some extraplanetary life form that is theoretically smart enough to get to us somehow and we could have a conversation, you have to see like, is there any overlap? And even foundational concepts like zero may not exist. But that point about maybe is like starting to answer my own question coming into this is like, if you think about your own ideas, in order to have a meaningful conversation with everyone, like any person you're interacting with, you have to make sure that the ideas that you're sharing are like in both parties' assembly space to be able to have it, but that by two assembly spaces coming together, both can be expanded. And so maybe that's the net of it. I don't know.
I don't know. I don't want to. We got so much else to talk about. But this is like a scientific refutation of individualism, which I find really interesting because like based on this theory, you cannot exist without the assembly of parts that came well before you and well outside of you. And you cannot grow or change as a person like you without agglomerating more and more of those like little pieces that stack up to the complexity of you. And that means that we're like fundamentally reliant on
you're
everything and everyone else.
A fleck of fat in the corn dog.
Yes. Oh.
Fleck of corn dog fat.
Like a corn
Jess,
dog.
do you want to try and create a new assembly space on your corner for understanding this conversation?
Wow. I don't know. I hope that we got somewhere close to your starting question, Joey, but I did think it was interesting even being introduced to two of these different concepts into this whole idea of assembly theory. And I really do think that if we bastardized it, we still did it in the spirit of corn dog loving joviality. And there can't be anything wrong with trying to make scientific progress one corn dog fleck of fat at a time, right?
One corn dog fleck of fat at a time. That's my new life motto.
Put it on a t-shirt.
What do you think of? Oh, I'm certain the different questions we'll ask are at opposite ends of the universe of conversation.
I was just going to say the funny thing is like in assembly theory. We have just expanded slightly assembly theory as a concept space within assembly space by having this conversation on the podcast.
What? Crazy. Yeah, I was going to ask, are mini corn dogs without the stick still corn dogs?
Yep. I think that both of these actually reinforce your point, Joey. I think that assembly theory is going to be talked about through the lens of corn dog for quite some time, and we'll all have to question
in eternity.
What is the limit of corn dog? What is the constituent minimum of corn dog?
Yeah. Are you going to be a cocktail corn dog in
That's
humanities
exactly right.
assembly space, or will you be a brat?
Wow.
Yeah.
You can't make a brat into a corn dog.
Oh,
maybe if you use like a dowel
100%
rod.
A dowel rod.
Just use a full-blown dowel rod, and then if you have the mini ones, you can use a toothpick. You know? It's like there's a range of corn dog style. Yes.
Is the wood required for a corn dog to be a corn dog?
Yeah, that's basically what I'm wondering. You pause it now.
Interesting. So you could put it on a steel rod or no rod?
Yeah.
No. Rod?
Or you could wear it in
You can't put it on like a pipe cleaner. That would not work.
Cornmeal and dog. It's not like in the name is corn dog. Corn and dog. That's all you need. You don't need the stick. It's not a corn. It's not a corn dog stick.
Meal?
Yeah.
You don't call it that. Like
corn dogs. Yeah.
I still argue that a dog would not suggest a sausage-like item.
Okay.
I'm just saying. Putting it out there.
A corn brat.
Indeed.
Well, we did it.
Oh, we're transferring into food corner.
I love it.
Jess, can you take us to the Mind's State Fair, in which things can be deep fried, pan fried, seared, broiled, baked, or blazed?
And not air fried.
I mean, I wouldn't say no.
I think there needs to be oil. I'm sorry. I think there needs to be oil.
Fair.
So, let us begin on the subject of elementary particles of matter, typically known as quarks. There are 6 flavors of quarks, if you didn't know. There's up, there's down, there's charm, strange, top and bottom quarks. And similar to the ways... Oh, we're not
muons, gluons.
Similar to the way that there are 6 flavors of quarks, there are also 6 elemental marshmallows. There are mini, standard, jumbo, charm, Swiss Miss, and homemade. And I want
Swiss
to
Miss
know.
gets its own category.
I'll run with it.
And I want to know, where are these marshmallows best applied in life? Go.
I have such strong opinions. I do. I woke up this morning and literally alarm goes off, look at my phone, and I think alphabet cereal marshmallows are right. And I would say that the Swiss Miss marshmallow, if it is its own category of marshmallow, is very close to the Alphabet's Lucky Charms marshmallow.
Right?
But it's harder. It's harder.
It's a hard and yet like way meltier in a moist context.
That is true.
It just dissolves. It's meant to dissolve, but the cereal format is not fully meant to dissolve. You're meant to have sort of like a bite of the desiccated mallow in a way that the Swiss Miss mallow is meant to just
right?
like. I think that's right, or some kind of drying mechanism. Has to be.
It sounds right because you're right. Like when they did the Swiss Miss multicolored marshmallows, which was terrifying. You do not want chocolate with like a rainbow of colors spitting out the top. It's and then it just mixes up and it's brown.
Did they call it unicorn? Because I feel like someone would do that.
Of course.
Yeah.
It was either unicorn or galaxy. It was that. Yeah, it was that moment, right?
Got it.
But no, I really see 3 applications of marshmallow. I see them to make s'mores. I see them in cereal,
Mhm.
and I see them to keep my brown sugar from clumping. That's it. I got nothing else.
Whoa!
And I
Rewind.
Yeah. Wait, yeah.
What?
This is the best.
What?
If I have taught Jess something new that is related to baking in any way, shape, or form, I am honored. But yes, a way to keep your brown sugar from clumping is to throw a jumbo marshmallow into whatever container you're keeping it with. And it will slow down that like clumping of the marshmallow. You don't have to do the microwave trick. The hardening. Like where it becomes
part of the
one
issue is the greatest issue with brown sugar is that no matter what sealing container you use, it is always becoming difficult to use. Wow.
And so there you go.
You did teach me something.
Toss a marshmallow in.
And does it matter the scale of the mallow? Can you use like a mini marshmallow in that context?
You know, I've always been partial to the jumbo just because I felt like if I'm doing it, I got to do it ridiculously.
Yeah.
So like, I got a bag of brown sugar. Put a marshmallow in it. You can't just be like, put a marshmallow in it.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and went with jumbo, which felt appropriate. But I don't use like the homemade artisanal marshmallows as you spoke to, like those that are, you know, cubic marshmallows.
They're always
and are just
cubic.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know why is that? Why is that style of mellow cubey?
I think it's because it is made in a dish, like a casserole dish or pan type of, and then you slice it, which also makes me wonder, is Kraft jet puffed part of the technique of making, like, are they puffed by way of jet? Is that how they become that shape?
Is it Delta Kraft jet puff? Is it American Airlines Kraft? Boeing? Kraft
Yes.
jet puff?
Obviously, they have to use an American-made jet turbine. So it would be either Airbus or Boeing that would be creating the jet. I suppose it could be Raytheon. It could be like Raytheon jet puffs. The military-industrial complex got to our mallows.
It happens.
It's like an aeration of a sludge in a tube is how I imagine it happening.
Can someone please explain to me
it's
this
extruded.
first paragraph in the Kraft jet puffed history? It goes, without any context, it starts, it was first a simulated spaceship. Sorry. It was first a simulated spaceship made by Aerojet General Corporation for Kraft Foods to sell because it was in a limited market the first year. 19 U.S. cities had young people waiting in long lines for their chance to sit at the control panels. Kraft gave away the spaceship as the top prize in the ongoing Name the Space training ship promotion. In 1964, Jet Puff Marshmallows began making Easter candies, cookies, and cupcakes. Can we just rewind to the part where...
Are marshmallows a product of the space race?
Oh, what? Is this where we learn this?
Is that like actually what it is?
I don't understand.
Wow.
I do,
but we do.
Training ship? Space training?
So do we have JFK to thank for marshmallows? Is that?
First introduced in 1958 and sold as a national brand in 1959. Wow. Really?
How do people make homemade marshmallows?
That's why I'm saying in a pan or a dish and you slice them. But
how do you add the air? Or they're just like less. They're like
I think
less
that's just
airy?
how it exists. I just don't really know what is the surface. What is that sort of dusty, jet puffed marshmallow?
Just confectioner sugar. I mean, the whole thing is just confectioner sugar and like
but
oil.
Why is it round?
But then it's because it's extruded
gelatin.
through a tube and sliced.
Yeah, or if it's puffed. Yeah, you're right. It definitely is.
Maybe that. So interestingly, and we'll put this in the show notes, you can on eBay get an ad for the new jet puffed marshmallows that came from Kraft in 1958.
Wow.
They're a double duty kitchen candy, wonderful for recipes. And truly, it was like craft marshmallows. And then it was like almost like a limited edition of like, they are jet puffed. And so, yeah, it's kind of random.
It's so random.
Wow.
You wanna
And they
know, like,
even
a
in the ad, wow, they make a cloud rainbow of marshmallows in the ad. It is, it's something.
It's something.
The like perfect like encapsulation of my grandmother's existence in this like moment in food is that she used to occasionally for a snack give us marshmallows on a plate that are microwaved.
No.
So they would be like,
would you dip it with
they,
anything
like,
at least?
They inflate and expand, and you just eat them with a fork, and they're like lava goo. Like I
love it.
But she's like,
Kids would
microwave,
love this.
microwave,
Yes.
great.
Do it.
Marshmallows, great.
Great.
Microwave and marshmallows, double great. And we're like,
Yeah.
it's just like hot sugar. You're just eating hot sugar, like out of
like
a
a
product
dream.
of like the industrialization of American food. She also made casseroles that like carried over at least a generation called orange casserole, which maybe we've spoken about, is just Campbell's tomato soup, Campbell's cream of cheddar soup, ground beef, and macaroni noodles.
I bet that's good, actually.
Okay.
People love it, but it's you also like in hindsight now I'm like it's probably like eroding my insides, you know?
Yeah. Yep, I got you.
So I think we did cover this, but I did confirm that the innovation was extrusion, period.
Yeah.
Like
it has
in
to
the
be.
early 50s, they developed, they could extrude marshmallows through metal tubes.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh my God, circular marshmallows. The shape of them was
part of the
what
appeal.
was so exactly.
The allure of those little poofy cylinders.
Yes. How simply fascinating.
Do we think there's a place for jumbo mallows beyond the brown sugar salve? They're just so much bigger than the standard marshmallow.
Why am I thinking of this? Maybe it's The Simpsons, where like I think someone puts a small marshmallow into a mug and it just fills up the entire mug and soaks up all the hot chocolate or something. And like turn it upside down, put it on a plate, and then cut it with a fork and knife. I'm gonna figure out what this is from. I know, like it's
That
stuck in my
sounds amazing.
head. But when
It does sound
and
good.
that's and it's what takes me to maybe it's basically your grandmother's technique with those marshmallows. It's like go ahead and make a super big one that is
It's
basically
already super big.
yeah, it's already super big. Soak it in some stuff, and then call it creme brulee. Like you know,
Melted and eat it with a fork.
boom,
Yeah.
feels good.
I mean, it wouldn't be America if we just didn't make an oversized one of them. So, like, it's like,
This
oh,
is
you
true.
thought those were jumbo marshmallows? These are super jumbo marshmallows. Super size it.
Corrections department to myself. There is a seventh elemental marshmallow.
Whoa,
A boson.
Qua?
The God particle.
The Peep.
Oh
Ooh.
my, no. You misspoke crap. I'm sorry. You said it wrong. It's no. I hate Peeps. I mean, I know it's like popular to hate Peeps,
they're
but they're
bad-
just
they're bad
They're not
marshmallows.
I
they're
love
bad
Peeps.
marshmallows.
But
will-
one a year still worth it. It is enjoyable for exactly one Peep, and then the half-life of Peep joy immediately drops off.
Is there a difference in
In-
taste between pink and yellow?
I mean, if you can taste yellow dye 67 versus red dye 22, then maybe. But this year, I got some Peeps because I didn't have a Easter basket, so I just got the the stuff you filled that like fake plastic grass, which I was like trying to avoid any plastic in this situation, but I was like, well, we got to get fake plastic grass because I don't have a basket. So I made I said the Easter Bunny made a rabbit's nest on our coffee table out of that, and I put some Peeps inside the rabbit's nest with like a couple things to like start our at-home Easter egg hunt. I was like Yeah, rabbits. I mean, Easter Bunny is laying eggs or whatever the relationship is. So like Peeps can sit in an Easter rabbit's nest. Like I just bastardize all of these things.
Well, but it's like when you see M&M's commercials where they like eat other M&Ms and you're like, is this cannibalism? Like, so are we just like eating raw bunny babies? Is that now what we have taught?
That are chickens.
Also,
that are chickens. Yeah.
Why did those things tie together? Why did a bunny, an egg-laying bunny become like the symbol?
Yes, of this. Everything comes back to pagans. I feel like if we Google hard enough, we will find out that it's definitely a pagan connection, and it has been twisted or merged.
Pagans were just more fun. It sounds like
assembly theory, y'all. Wait until we come back to this at like the holiday season. Whoa. Yeah. Let's figure out the assembly index of Santa. Yes.
So do we have to decide desert island if we're given one fundamental marshmallow?
Yep.
What one are we taking?
Yes.
I'm taking the Lucky Charms cereal marshmallows.
Yeah.
Really?
Or
do we consider that
or their brethren?
Yeah.
I'm definitely taking
could be
mallow.
Blueberries.
I'm taking it straight.
Love me a good
You don't
blueberry.
get the cereal with it. You just get the mallow.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Clarifying.
Damn, so your standard mallow, I'm really torn because I'm just gonna die if all I have is marshmallows.
We're not saying
mind took over.
You don't get any other food. It's just you only get one marshmallow.
I see. I was very concerned about my macros in general.
Destroyed in assembly space.
You know what? Chaotic neutral. I'll take the mega marshmallow. I'll take the
jumbo.
I'll take the jumbo
for your brown sugar needs on the island.
Exactly. If it's not my only nutrition, I might as well get a lot of it. Then
all the mug soaking on the island.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, but I don't get a mug. Do I get a mug and hot chocolate? Maybe?
Yeah, sure.
Yay! Thank you. I appreciate it.
Jess, you have to commit.
I already committed. I'm taking standard marshmallow.
Mm-hmm.
Standard?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For campfires on the beach.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I'm gonna try and get giant Lucky Charms marshmallows and see what happens to them on a stick in a fire.
Whoa!
I don't know how I'm just gonna glue them together somehow.
Crazy.
I'm convinced the universe will cave in on itself. Like the second that the marshmallow hits the flame, everything just implodes.
No,
reverse Big Bang.
That was the simulation trigger, and the simulation ends if you try to roast Lucky Charms marshmallows.
It's like that's like our Truman Show moment. That's us running into the side of the set. It's like ding ding ding. Oh no, we found the edge of existence. Indeed.
Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by Spaceship Squeezed Marshmallows. Welcome, fancy number 8.
As always, we'd like to thank our executive producer and chief extruder, Jess Vander.
No.
We would also like to thank sound engineer and assemblyman of all of our nonsense, Alex Contel.
We'd like to thank our programming coordinator, Les Jacobs, for extruding the tunes into our mind wine.
Wow. Extrusion so maximum. And I would consider them the blueberries to the rest of our cereal. Designer Nora Mestrich and Sarah Jacobs. Thank you, production crew.
And as always, thanks, Elen, for not being able to extrude the toothpaste back into the tube.
God. Joey, no.
As always, special thanks.
Yes. I'd like to thank... hold on. I'd like to thank... Damn it, I already closed the window. I'd like to thank the person who developed extrusion because, damn it, you ruined my day. Thanks.
Yeah.
I would like to thank Kraft Heinz for both bringing us Jet Puffed and the superior ketchup.
Disagree so vehemently.
I would like to thank Technical Fiber Underwear because, as I said recently, that is the most you can't put toothpaste back in the tube experience of my entire life. Like,
I can't unpack that one, and I'm not
don't
going to.
want to.
I literally put my mind into stasis. I'd like to thank the Guardian briefly for helping me understand Goblin mode, which I didn't for this entire episode because I am out of the loop.
That's true. We had a conversation with Alana Bondell. Listeners,
Go listen to that. Yes, Alana's the center of all truth, period. I think that's all
That's it for the gratitude corner. So we have Ketchup, Technical Fiber Underwear, the Guardian, and
Alana.
What am I
the
missing?
inventor of extruders and Alana Bondell.
Extruders. Yep. Got it.
Yes.
And Alana Bondo. Got it.
Great.
Gratitude.
Let's go.
Gratitude.
And I'm grateful for y'all.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye. Love you.